This is interesting. I see teams come and they go. It's going to take you 2, 3, 4, 5 times as longer. You have to have the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. If you want to talk about hard, like having a drill sergeant yelling in your face, not anyone can handle that. It was her and I were the OGs. You know, we started husband and wife team. We made some bad hires, which really affected the team. Listen, most real estate teams fail, and here's why. I'm Dave Panozzo. I run a team here in Scottsdale, Arizona. There's about 25 of us. This is interesting. I see teams come and they go. And this is kind of interesting to me because I've been doing this now for 9 years. It was my wife and I. It was her and I were the OGs. You know, we started husband and wife team, and then we added a couple more people and a couple more. And I have learned like nobody has learned. You could probably call me a little bit of a pain freak. I've played team sports, I was in the military, and I run a successful team today. And here are a couple things that I have found. Number one, if people don't bring energy and effort to the table, it's very difficult for me to work with you. A lot of times people just want things handed to them or they want it easy. That makes it very, very difficult to help coach and train and mentor a newer agent. They have to show up. Like showing up, like the old saying goes, showing up is half the job, right? If you can't show up on time, can't show up to the meetings, can't show up to the trainings, it is hard to get someone to that next level. I would say the second one is, you have to be open-minded. And what I mean by that is you have to have the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is, that's the inside the box type of thinking. That's when people are like, well, what are the rules? And, I can't do this and I can't do that, versus growth mindset is where, oh, well, what if I were to try this or think outside the box? I find that people, when they're open-minded with that growth mindset, they're much better at adapting to learning new techniques, methodologies, and they're a lot easier to coach. A lot of times people take things very personal, and it's not a personal attack on them, it's the business aspect. And the third thing is you have to be coachable in what we do. Now, take in mind, I played basketball. I had some coaches that were really, really hard on me, and then I was in the military. You want to talk about hard? Like having a drill sergeant yelling in your face, not anyone can handle that. So I've been through that. So I know what it's like to be that tough love, that tough coaching to get through to someone. And I see the best in everybody out there. Sometimes they don't see it in themselves. And so that tough coaching, that has to come into play, because if I see something that isn't being done properly, or maybe the word track they use, or maybe their tonality, it's like, whoa. Let me correct that. Let me break that down for you in a better way that maybe you can use. Now listen, I don't want you to take this personal. This is the business piece. And then as I'm talking to them, you can see their demeanor just kind of change, and they kind of get crapped out. I'm like, hey, listen, hold on. This isn't a personal attack against you. This is what you're doing in the business side. So sometimes I have to outweigh the two so that they understand. Well, the bad ones are easy. If they come to a training just to see what the team is like, and they show up in the training room and maybe they're a couple minutes early, they just sit there and they're on their phone. They're just on their phone. They're not introducing themselves to other people in the room and saying, hey, what's your name? How long have you been on the team? Where then there's other people that you can just tell when they come into the room, they just light up. They have a smile on their face, and they put their hand out. Like, see, those kind of people get my attention. And then as I start talking to them, if I find that they're interesting, or they've been through some things in life, and maybe they've had 2 or 3 jobs, or maybe they've been in sales, but maybe didn't have the right coaching or mentoring, I find that those people are much, much easier to approach, to have those conversations, to see what their goals are. Like, what kind of money are they wanting to make? And is it working at the current job, or what you're currently doing? And so I'll start to open up their brain a little bit and talk and see if it is a good fit. I would say, things like, we don't work with part-timers. Part-time real estate agents, it's very difficult, especially at the beginning phases of getting them ramped up, okay? If you're doing something part-time, it's gonna take you 2, 3, 4, 5 times as longer. Personally, I have not ran into someone that is willing to just go 100% even when it's part-time. okay? Because they're working a full-time job, and then they have to dedicate so much time in their after hours towards real estate that it's very hard to get that right type of person. So I only like to work with people that are gonna do this at a full-time basis. Another thing that's super important to me is they gotta show up. You gotta show up to our meetings and trainings, okay? Not that I'm so great and that everything I have to say, but you have to show up and have that human action with other people on the team. Could we do Zoom calls? Sure, but I can't see really what your demeanor is on a Zoom call. But when I see you in person, I can ask you a very pointed question, look at you in your eyes, and know exactly where you're at mentally. And to me, that's super important. Building our culture over the years, we were kind of like this little mom and pop type setup with, Dave and Kim, wearing about a dozen hats apiece and doing the training and doing some of the things. Over the years, it has now gotten to a point to where we've had to have the right key people in place in order for us to grow. And so earlier on, we made some bad hires, which really affected the team. There was some egos, there was some little bit of shenanigans here and there, and that really disrupted the team. And I didn't realize how bad. And when those people left, the team raised up to a different standard. And so now we make sure there's absolutely no egos. We have mothers, we have fathers, we have grandparents on this team, and we're all striving to do something better. And what I find when you have a group of people that are all heading in that right direction, you're pretty unstoppable. So I would say with our culture, it's God first, no egos, none of this, don't you know who I am stuff. Like none of that goes over well with me. And so we just don't attract those kind of people. So listen, we barely scratched the surface. I could probably go on for a couple hours on this topic, but here's the thing, when building a team, you have to attract like-minded people. They have to show up, they have to bring energy and effort, no egos, none of this crazy stuff that goes on. They need to be open-minded, okay? Growth mindset, that's super key. And again, the people that want to learn and that are open-minded to different suggestions and things like that, that don't take it personal, those are the types of people that you want to collaborate with. And that's how you build your culture, okay? Culture isn't something that you just go to a weekend seminar and come back and instill some stuff. It's something that it's a living organism inside your company, and it takes work. It doesn't happen naturally. You have to stay focused in making sure that you keep everyone going in the same direction. And when one person gets out of line or has a problem, you gotta deal with that head on. Don't think it's gonna go away, because when you do that, it can spread like wildfire, and then you'll have a whole team that's upside down. So here's the thing. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on building a team, building a culture. Maybe you've been in some different businesses, or maybe you're a team leader yourself. I'd love to hear from you, so shoot a comment below. If you liked what I had to say, hit the like button and also subscribe, because we're dropping heat every week. Let's make it a great week.